I actually fell in love with steampunk as an accidental kind of serendipitous moment. My wife, being the organizer of belly dance events in the fine state of Virginia, she organized a show called Silent Sirens, and it was a production company out of San Francisco, and it was a belly dance version of the I think 20s film Nosferatu. So you have this kind of silent film about a vampire converted into a belly dance show, and it's really entertaining. The producers of the show asked us to encourage everybody to come in their finest steampunk or Victorian attire, and we thought, what is that? So I did what everybody else does. I Googled it, and I thought, oh my God, this is it. This is me. And that was 2009, and so ever since then, I've been, as they jokingly say, full steam ahead. The steampunk community is a really eclectic, intelligent community that ranges everything from infants and toddlers who get into it because of their parents, all the way up to I believe the eldest person that I've met at a steampunk convention was in their upper 80s. They didn't care to divulge the exact age, or they couldn't remember. I don't know, but either way, it's a community that ranges such a broad spectrum of people, and it's not one particular demographic of an economic status or a race or a religion. It truly is this wonderful mix of everything. You have one thing that is on the rise is the growing number of minorities that are getting into it, because it's a philosophical situation, basically, because with steampunk, there's nothing but possibilities, and your imagination is encouraged to break whatever molds that you've been taught to believe, and things of history that you know to be true. In 1865, it would have been very difficult to believe an African American man would be an officer in the Army and the head of the Secret Service. Yet, kids younger than myself, people younger than myself will watch the Wild Wild West with Will Smith and think nothing of it. It doesn't stand out and register as an anomaly, and that's because we're evolving as a culture. But steampunk facilitates that; it embraces that, and so you have, and of course, my generation and older remembers the TV show that it was based off of, and so you have this growing group, I guess, of folks that are getting into it because they're embracing that limitless possibility. One thing I love as a parent of a teenage girl is that steampunk doesn't say, you're a girl, you can't do that. Steampunk says, you're a girl, and that's cool, so here's some things, but if you want to wear a samurai sword with your frilly dress and be a demon hunter, heck yeah, do it. Why not? And so the community tends to be a lot of educators. There's a lot of literature teachers. There's a lot of engineers because of the building aspect. There's a lot of artists. There's a lot of just all sorts of it. It does tend to be a slightly more educated crowd than some of the other groups that I've been in. And but one of the best things about it is that engineers start looking at art, and artists start looking at engineering, and people become writers who never would have dreamt of writing anything before because they are now wanting to make backstories for the props. And so all of these things kind of feed each other, and this society, if you will, of people into steampunk just grows exponentially. Right now, it seems to keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and events that top 6,000 people in steampunk garb are becoming more and more frequent. One of the fun things about the steampunk community is that there's so many events to go to. It's not just you make the stuff, you wear it around your house, and then you wish you had the opportunity to show it off. There's actually a plethora of events and locations to go to that not only embrace this but facilitate it. And steampunk conventions are all over the United States, all over the world actually. I was this close to going to a convention in New Zealand as one of their guests, but I had to get my way there. It was a bit too expensive at the time. Uh, Currently, the next thing that we have going on is an event at the Hampton History Museum in Hampton, Virginia. The museum is really cool because they see the possibilities with steampunk, and they love the ties to history that it uses, but they also love the imagination of dreaming, like what could be, what uh, changes to history could be made. That alternate history aspect of steampunk is really appealing to museum folks because a lot of time they know the drudgery or the sadness and tragedy of history, and so it gives them a way out of what they know. And just an observation, the Hampton History Museum event coordinator, Seamus McGran, is just a fantastic guy who is really supportive of the steampunk movement, if you will, here in the local Hampton Roads area. And so he put on this event last year, and it was kind of an art exhibit with a party to open it off Friday night. And that's what we're doing again this year. There's going to be two bands playing, two local bands, the Framers as well as Ugliography. We have local Virginia belly dance troupe Wicked Hips, which is actually, even though it's a local belly dance troupe, it's pretty eclectic because there is a French citizen, a German citizen, and one of the dancers' family is from Jordan and Syria. So you have this really eclectic group. But anyway, they're performing kind of steampunk themed belly dance. It's not there's no such thing as steampunk belly dance, but there's belly dance, and then there's adding in the look of the Victorian era to it, and so they have a lot of fun with that. It's very entertaining to watch. And we also have Sir Paddington Aldwych, who is a British citizen who lives in Gloucester, Virginia, and he does steampunk-themed sideshow routines. So he's very entertaining, kind of a strong man, sideshow acts. You can see videos of that later. And then we have myself. I'll be kind of the MC of the evening, and I'll be donning a different personality that's a little bit more wild, crazy, twisted preacher kind of mentality. Right now, I'm subduing myself. I'm toning it down. But there, I'll be turning it all up and embracing my steampunk motto, which is anything worth doing is worth overdoing. So, and I get into the whole, ladies and gentlemen, that kind of personality. And make it entertaining for people. They're paying good money, darn it, $5 to get in. They need to get every penny out of that. So, other events, some of the steampunk conventions that we're going to, I've been honored by being invited to come to Contemporary in Raleigh, North Carolina, as their maker guest of honor. Makers are the people that make. It's a very complicated term, very complicated definition. I get it, but just use some imagination. Maker makes. Anyway, I'll be there as their maker guest of honor, and also heading down in the end of August to Dragon Con, which is not a steampunk convention per se. It's a kind of everything sci-fi geek convention, but I'll be part of the alternate history track, which is the steampunk, and I am attending as a attending professional. It's kind of like a guest, but not at the level of, say, Leonard Nimoy and William Shatner. It's the poor man's guest, so which I'm totally thrilled by because I would go no matter what. It's incredible to see 60,000 people in costuming and having a blast, embracing their inner geek, and I will be there doing my best to represent Virginia and steampunk. So what is steampunk? It's kind of a hard thing to answer because there's a lot of different variations because it's such a personal thing. So I can answer it with a kind of a general description, and then I'll elaborate more on what I feel it is. Because you ask 100 people, you may, in theory, get 100 different responses. So the general version is it's kind of our interpretation of Victorian era futurism, their idea of what the future would behold. and our interpretation of that. So whether it be flying personal helicopters that were pedal bicycles that a lot of the artists of the time did, or works based on authors like Jules Verne going to the moon, or traveling the depths of the ocean in the Nautilus. These are all things that they could foresee as future possibilities, but they didn't actually exist at their time. Building a jetpack, but looking like this and wearing a jetpack, that's kind of steampunk. There's so many other aspects of it, though, from the literary side of it, writing books or reading books. If you're going to delve into what to read in order to figure out steampunk, start in the beginning and read Mary Shelley, Frankenstein, reanimating a dead corpse. It's kind of science, weird science. Even though that was 1830s, well before the Victorian era, it's still a great example of literary work that you can reference. Anything by Jules Verne, of course. He's kind of the godfather of steampunk. H.G. Wells, War of the Worlds. There's just so many things from that time that you can read. Mark Twain. Most people wouldn't consider Mark Twain a steampunk author, but I do, because it's kind of that's 7 Degrees of Kevin Bacon. You always want to find any way to tie somebody to steampunk. And he wrote Connecticut Yankee in King Arthur's Court, a time traveler who creates the Industrial Revolution in King Arthur's time. To me, that's completely steampunk. So, and then there's plenty of modern references. You could, say, I don't know, buy this one book called Country in Ruin, 1865 by David Lee. That's a fantastic book, but, anyway, I digress. So there's plenty of things, if you look up steampunk, to read. Some people get into it for the art aspect of paintings or making jewelry, making ascot pins or all sorts of things. Some people get into it, they come from the medieval reenactment side, and they get into making armor and weapons for steampunks to wear. Because why just dress like a dandy when you can be a dandy with armor and a big gun? That's pretty rockin', Then there are the music side of the house. There's so many bands right now that entertain steampunk community. I don't know that too many of them consider themselves a steampunk band per se, but there's Frenchie and the Punk. There is Abney Park, which considers themselves kind of steampunk pirate rock. They're out of Northwest Coast somewhere. Then there's other bands this way to the Egress. There's just so many bands. Valentine Wolf, that's kind of like Victorian, Gothic, steampunk, chamber metal is what they call it. So there's so many different things that you can listen to get a feel for what is steampunk, only to come to the conclusion that there is no real steampunk music. There's just steampunks, and they like a wide range of things. There's even steampunk rap, which is Professor Elemental, Mr. B, the Gentleman Rhymer, and Sir Reginald Pike Devant Esquire are all rappers that, if rap existed in the 19th century, this is what they think it would look like. And 2 are British, 1 is American, and it's great. If you've ever heard the song "Just Glue Some Gears on It and Call It Steampunk," that's Sir Reginald Pike Devant Esquire, who is somewhere in the Midwest. I want to say perhaps Ohio or something like that. But and he puts on this British persona, and he raps and sings, and it's fantastic. So there's so many different ways to embrace steampunk that really you're going to define your own. So these are just a few things of what it is, and the rest of it is really up to you. All right, Dave Lee here again from Hat and Cross Steampunk. I'm going to kind of walk you through a few sections of my house that have been authorized by my wife to show. There are other parts that are not authorized, and I really don't want to get in any trouble. After 21 years together, I know the boundaries of where I'm supposed to go. Anyway, so this wonderful piece of furniture here is used as a display of some of our fine works from Hat and Cross Steampunk Publishing, also known as HCS Publishing for short. These are some of the books that we have put out. Only a few of them. Some of them right now are out on loan, but for reviews. But band that I previously mentioned, Valentine Wolf, This is Once Upon a Midnight, the Curious Afterlife of Edgar Allan Poe, complete with a CD. Then we have books 1 and 2 of my daughter's series, which hopefully you'll be seeing another program about. That is the Novus Proprius Chronicles, teen author right here from Virginia. And then Steampunk for Simpletons is a relatively new book that just came out. That is kind of a steampunk for dummies type without taking their copywritten name. But it's I often refer to it as kind of a steampunk Bible because it has something like 20 different countries worth of people's input to what steampunk is. And various decorations. You can see that the steampunk community is rather eclectic. There's all sorts of things from history that we like, and then we of course like taking pieces of history and then changing them up, making a more sci-fi aspect. This is a lesson in size. See, people always think bigger is better, and that is not always the case. This is a very elaborate weapon that my wife built. We affectionately refer to it as the cricket, and but don't let its diminutive size fool you, for this, ladies and gentlemen, can take down an elephant in one shot. But, moving on. So over here we have my analytical engine of wickedness, sometimes called analytical engine of awesomeness. This is actually an 1881 pump organ that here you would pump up the bellows, filling up the bellows of air, and then you could play music. And it actually still works as a pump organ. It is a bit rough but then again, we're talking about a 133-year-old object. I built in my Mac so that I could actually use this as a workstation, of course equipped with webcam, only the latest and greatest high-tech features for me. Yes, some of the Mr. Bell's incandescent lighting that I'm more of a Tesla fan, but I'm trying things out. We're kind of doing a little bit of a test market for people. He also has asked me to try out his latest telephone, but it's kind of broke. It doesn't really work. I'm just waiting for Nikolai to make his own. Yes, of course, then I can monitor pressure buildups for the engine that's over here that is powering the whole device. It's very quiet. We've gone with the stealth model because previous ones were so loud that you just couldn't quite hear yourself think. So we've gone with a quieter model, which oftentimes falls unseen because it is so quiet. So perhaps much like hybrid cars, I'll have to add a fake sound to make it seem real. Anyway, and of course gauges to monitor what I'm doing, various statistics. Over here you'll see a fun piece that I thoroughly enjoy when I have the opportunity to take a deep sea dive with Captain Nimoy of the Nautilus. We built a series of dive suits for him, and he's got all kinds of plans. But stepping out of character a little bit, this is a plant holder for you put it underneath of your plant pot so that it's up off the ground. This is a vacuum cleaner hose, dead vacuum cleaner. We salvaged those pieces. These pieces right here on the side of the helmet and the top are actually toilet flanges. Got them from Home Depot. They're not used because that would be a kind of a crappy idea. But anyway, and then there's lighting on the inside that lights up when you wear it, so you get more of effect. There's a green plasma disc here that lights up and gives you a nice effect. And then, of course, if you're diving, you need weights to help keep you down. This is a great example of a steampunk, what you can do with things found at a flea market and junk. This is actually an old Zenith radio from the 1940s that if you had actually tried to plug it in and listen to it, it would catch fire and burn your house down. So I gutted it, and I put in an old karaoke machine from my daughter that was collecting dust, and I gutted that, put the guts inside of this shell, and made it an actual karaoke machine. It all plays off of an iPod. There's also a CD player on the side that actually works. I added a speaker here in this horn so that I could get a cool effect. And then there's two more speakers down in the middle, down there, to give you good clean sound. It also has it could have a Bluetooth option if I just install it, but that's some of the newer models of things that I build. I make them Bluetooth capable so that anybody can control them from the convenience of their comfy couch, as opposed to having to go in and do anything like this one. If you'll see here, we started off, my wife started off with a Singer sewing machine base. That's a really cool piece of history and a really cool item, but what do you do with it unless you have a sewing machine and you want to have that as decoration? She had found this tabletop for $5 at the flea market, refinished it, and then we attached it to the Singer sewing machine, and it just gives it a more unique look and table. This is where the magic happens. Not that kind of magic, but this right here is another flea market find. I got it for $40, and it's an old Victrola that you would hand crank the motor up and it would spin and play records. But it was missing a lot of pieces, so hence the price. But I don't really care about making it a working record player because, let's be honest, how many people have records? So what I'm doing is, as a gift from my brother, the motor that's underneath of this is going to come out, and we're going to put modern stereo receiver in here, Bluetooth receiver and amp, and then the speakers. Actually, the way this works is the speaker is a wooden tunnel basically that comes out here, and you would originally, this is how you would control the volume, by opening and closing these doors. And so the speakers are going to come into here, and this will still function, but he'll be able to control it with his iPhone. And this is where the records used to go. I'll make it, this will become like a small liquor cabinet for him. Absolute necessity for steampunks. Going down this way, we have a couple other things that I just kind of want to show you. This box is affectionately known as the BFB. It's the big frigging box. This is what holds my jetpack. This is the Morgan Aeronautical Destroyer of Satan's Arrogance. That's quite a mouthful, you must be saying to yourself, and that's because it's quite a story. You see, I was given the opportunity to enter this and another piece into the Mark Twain Museum art show. They had a steampunk art show, all Twain themed. And when they asked me, all the other artists were given a Mark Twain quote, and they had to build a steampunk piece that went along with that quote. I was a latecomer because they had a cancellation. So I had 2 weeks to put this all together. I had already built the jetpack, and the organizer wanted the jetpack in there. But he said, you need to come up with a way to tie a jetpack to Mark Twain. And so I looked through and I thought, Hank Morgan, the main character from Connecticut Yankee in King Arthur's Court, time traveler, he's used to 19th century technology, but I'm going to throw in a little bit of futurism there. And so in the part of the story where Hank Morgan is imprisoned in the Tower of London with King Arthur, I rewrote the story to include a German knight comes and purchases him as a gift in the wedding proposal of his love, who is in a town in Austria. Because I found in my searching, I found another story by Twain that deals with this kind of angel Satan entity that I forget the name of the story, but it's about young Satan, and he's kind of a genie type character that grants wishes that go awry. So anyway, I had the two meet that way, and then they get into a boasting competition of who the more intelligent, the more powerful is, and Hank Morgan makes a bet that he can fly. He can build a device to fly. And so in his attempt to, as he builds this jetpack, he proves young Satan wrong, and he flies, but he crashes into the side of a mountain and is laying there dying the winter. And young Satan grants him a wish, and he says, "I wish to go home." But he'd spent so much time in medieval England that young Satan defines home as the moment that he first shows up in Connecticut Yankee, where he wakes up and there's the knight looking at him by the tree. So that's his trick on the granting the wish. So anyway, you can read more about that on the Facebook page, but the whole story. But yes, this is my jetpack. These wings expand out, and these are the thrusters. This may look like a shower head nozzle, but I can assure you that this is a horizontal thruster. You're probably looking at this going, what in the world is a children's toy dinosaur doing up here? Well, like many steampunks, I see possibility in everything. And when I saw this, and I thought, and I was like, oh, it's sort of an automaton. It's sort of an automaton. I'm talking right now, please. So it's sort of an automaton, right? So I am going to take the rubber skins off. He's not very happy with this. And exposing the more mechanical looking aspect of it. And I'm going to paint him gold with rivets and make him look more like a robot. And then I'll have it in a cage, like a big bird cage, on display so that you can see this robot, dinosaur that I've captured in my time travels. It's very expressive. I mean, I still haven't decided if I'm going to actually remove the plastic skin or... Earlier you saw the dive helmet and shoulder piece. This is the actual dive pack. And one of the things that I kind of go for when I build steampunk props is what I call the 2-year-old effect. There is this effect that happens, and it doesn't matter what age you are. If you see something that awes and inspires you, especially at a geek level, the 2-year-old, your inner 2-year-old comes out and goes, "Ooh!" And I found that lights, especially plasma globes and plasma discs and sound effects, really foster that. And so I'm going to flip a switch here on the dive pack and show you my goal. So the first one turns on these headlights, which you can see, when you're diving and it's dark, bottom of the ocean, you need adequate lighting just to see. The other part that, and this is strictly for the 2-year-old factor, is this kind of lighting. So we have lighting in here that shows all of the barnacles and things that we've got going on, just encrusted starfish and shells. We have the lighting in here that provides some degree of mystery of what's inside of there. And then we have the plasma globes, which are my favorite. Only negative part about it is that people just can't stop touching it. I've even had people try to lick it, and I don't understand why, but there's, not everybody at a steampunk convention is normal. But the 2-year-old comes out and they go, "Oh my gosh!" and they get all excited. But looking at it real quick, these are some two tins that I picked up at a flea market. One had, I think, flour, and then this one says sugar. So when I bolted the bottoms together, made a neat tank. Used a dog leash, a dog harness as the straps to kind of help hold it in. And then I found this brass lobster. And my wife said, "What in the world are you going to do with a brass lobster?" And I said, "You know what? I will figure something out." So that brass lobster became a point here and here and here to help add structural stability to it. This right here was a pretzel box that I covered in aluminum tape, added this little bit for visual effect. So really lightweight, but adds another dimension, because basically when you wear the thing, this piece goes in and you wear it like that. When you want to stand it up on its own, the feet come out. Well, I needed a way to disguise the feet. The whole thing is built on a children's backpack, where you put your kid in your backpack and you go hiking. That's what the whole thing is based on. Added things like this to add a little Nemo effect of some beast of the sea coming out to, expose itself. And of course, warning labels. I like crazy warning labels. Do not touch. Not only will this kill you, it will hurt the entire time you're dying. So this is a work in progress. I like fun vehicles. One of the personas that I get to do a lot at conventions is a steampunk version of Darth Vader. And of course I wanted a vehicle that, would look similar to a steampunk TIE fighter. So I made the wings, the back of the wheelchair. This is the backpack that I wear as Darth Vader. And so I can put the backpack on here and it looks as an engine while I drive the TIE fighter around. I say it's a work in progress because we still need to build basically a cockpit shell that will come up to about here. So the Darth Vader will look out, but I can still see. If I can completely enclose it with the mask, and it's almost impossible to see and not kill yourself. So yeah, this is a fun work in progress that's easy to take to a convention. It's fun to drive. I like letting kids in open areas hop in there and take it for a spin. Once we have the cockpit built in, we're going to build in lots of lighting because, one, I want to get that 2-year-old factor. Well, that's pretty much it. I want the 2-year-old factor, and I want people to be like, whoa, that's awesome. And then we're also going to put in a pretty powerful sound system because I want to do sound effects. I want to have my tablet mounted on the inside so that I can use the Star Wars soundboard for the TIE fighter sound. As I drive by, I can make it go. Of course, I'm getting pretty good at making the sound myself. But yeah, let's move this out of the way. This right here was an impulsive buy at the flea market. I want to say I got it for maybe 20 bucks. But I like the old buggy style, and my daughter's 17, so this obviously wouldn't be used for that purpose. But because I do own a publishing company and we go to these conventions and we sell books, I plan to build a plexiglass piece in here that this can go down, and you have this plexiglass kind of like a candy dispenser, but our books would be in there so that you could push this around a convention and look at our babies, because that's what our books really are. And then you open up the door and you could pull out a book and sell it to somebody. That's the plan, at least. So, as with most steampunk things, you have a lot of things in your garage taking up space and a lot of plans of what to do, but yeah. This right here is the kind of piece de resistance from Hat and Cross Steampunk. This is a family project. The design was mine, and then my father redesigned it because the design that I initially had would never have actually functioned. It would have probably fallen apart on itself, on me, and I would have been doing this documentary from the hospital. So thankfully, my father being a carpenter, he said, well, let's just change it up a little bit. And so he built this with my help as laborer, and my brother Joe helped as laborer as well. And then once it was a rolling chassis, then I could go back and add on the lights, the guns. These are actually speakers. This is the sound system for sound effects. The speakers are hidden in here. And I could add in all of that, little details and effects and so on. And then my wife helped with a lot of the distressing and actual details that really can oftentimes go unnoticed when they're not, unless they're not there, then it doesn't look like a finished piece. But having, rust on the rivets, having pieces like, let me see, around the back here, you can see parts like this. This right here that looks like dripping rust, this is actually fingernail polish and masonry sand, and then going back and she's hand painted all of these pieces, and it really just adds that extra little detail that is more impressive than if it was a solid color of silver. And then at one point in time, when we removed the top, it looks more like a crazy roadster, so we decided it could also double as the steampunk James Bond vehicle. An interesting fact about that, the very first Q in 1878, when he created this vehicle for James Bond, he decided to name it after his two favorite nephews, Aston and Martin. So interesting side fact there. Of course, we have headlights. These are the normal headlights. They're just LED lights in here. But these two on the side here are red. And you're probably wondering, why would you have red headlights? Well, zombies react to bright light. Zombies do not react to red light. So you can, in theory, stealthily navigate through zombie hordes using your red lights. Because just because it is an armored battle carriage does not mean that it will completely protect you, because it can only do so much. Of course, having twin-mounted Gatling guns that are not just shooting propelled or projectile ammunition, these are actually shooting plasma energy bolts, which are quite effective against the undead. Cuts right through them just like a hot knife in butter. So here we have a gauge that the pilot from the inside can monitor the pressure that is going to fuel the plasma guns. On the inside, every pilot needs to have a picture of his lady back home, or her lady, whatever. They don't judge. I happen to have a lady back home, and that would be her. The console you see right here has various switches on the left. And the switches on the left are for the music, the lights, the interior lighting, and the buttons on the right will go to, because this is still a work in progress, they will go to a MP3 trigger so that I can trigger sound effects at the push of a button. So if I want to trigger a sound effect for the plasma Gatling guns, if I want to trigger a steam engine sound for this, I just hit a button and it makes the sound over these two speakers here. And another important thing. You'll see right there between the pilot's legs, right there on the floor, is a big red button. That is there for nothing else than the fact that people love to look at it and go, whatever you do, don't push the big red button. So I put a big red button in there. When you push it, because they always do, nothing happens. That's okay. Yes, so this is the engine. This engine may seem like a former umbrella stand, but I can tell you that that's just a mere coincidence. One piece that we're working on is actually making it electric drive propelled. So I have an electric bicycle motor. The problem is it works, and it'll get me, has enough torque to get me, my 240 pounds, and then about the 400 pounds that this weighs, moving. But because I chose a vertical chain layout, it comes off of the sprocket. And so I get about 10 feet before the chain comes off. So what we're going to do is take this all apart, mount the engine here so that it can function the way that it's designed to. Yeah, I mean, that's basically it. I can take the top off to show you the convertible look. Of course, it closes up like this, and as long as you're not a claustrophobic pilot, it's pretty nice. But this is the top off. Gives it a bit more streamlined effect when you're not needing as much protection. You can use it like this to emphasize more of the James Bond very first Aston Martin ever made. That's it. Steampunk is kind of cool because it is something that my whole family can get involved in. My wife, being a professional belly dancer and an instructor for that, has performance opportunities because of the entertainment aspect of conventions, and they just love it. And then she can also, when she's not performing, get decked out and have fun in some fantasy Victorian era character as well. My 17-year-old daughter, being an author with our publishing company, is also has fun getting dressed up. Part of the I guess philosophy of steampunk with that rebellion, it's you have this Victorian era, but you have to remember the punk part of it. She embraces the the punk aspect of she can be dressed up like a lady, but then she has her samurai sword and a couple guns, and she's a demon hunter. And nobody says, "Oh, you can't do that," because you're a girl or whatever. Let's face it, in Victorian England or America, you wouldn't have somebody walking around dressed nice with a whole lot of ink. But the punk part of it says, I can be a gentleman and be finely dressed and accompanied by weapons and whatnot, and still have ink, and it's perfectly acceptable. My father gets involved in building a lot of the things that come into my mind as ideas, and some of the flawed designs that I have, he's able to add sanity to it and make it more effective. And he likes building. His latest thing that he's into is building airships. He's building kind of airship models. So I'll be taking delivery of a birthday present from last year in June of the airship that he built for me that is based off of the airship that's in my book. And